So in this video, I thought I'd just do a quick walkthrough of how I actually edit a video, and specifically use the clips that were made for making this video and another one that's similar. So the first thing that I'll do is I already have a project that I had been working on. So the first thing is I'll go to that timeline and do Control A to select everything and delete it out of the timeline. Now I have a bunch of clips that I've put into the project. If you want to understand about the library, this is the library over here. Take a look at that video. So now I'm just going to use the mouse to scroll up to the first video and go to the end, and then just delete them all. So that just deletes all the thumbnails. So now I'm going to go and pull in the clips that are associated with this one that I want to compile now. And I'll just select the ones that are of interest, and including this one, and open them up. And it doesn't recognize 9 because I guess it's still building. So then what that does is that puts all of the clips that are of interest in the library. And I can actually, an easy thing to do is just to take them and drag them down into the timeline like that. And then what I can do is I can click on this little icon here, and that fits the project to the timeline window, and so it scrolls everything down to the right size that I can see things. So now you see that the clip is selected, and so it's going to play this particular clip. So I just click on play to listen to which clip this is. So this is a quick video. So in this particular situation, that clip wasn't needed, so I'm just going to press delete with it selected, and it will move it out and move everything over to the left. So now I just keep listening to the clips until I find the ones that have the content that I'm interested in. So this clip number 4, capture number 4, is one that I want to start with it, and this is going to be about general image and video organizing. So you can watch that video in just a second if you want. So in this particular case, I have some of the video I want to trim off. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into this a little bit, and I can click on the plus, and I can zoom in so it's easier for me to find where to start. So maybe here I'll just look and see where. So now this brings me to somewhere around there. Now I could keep doing the scrubber, but then once I started playing it, then the scrubber has moved. So how do I know if I've started at the right place? Well, here's an easy way to do this, and this deals with the trim markers. That's another video you can look at for more detail. But I think it's about right here. Notice that project is selected. There is no orange outline here, so project is selected. And with that, I can now click on this left edge here, this mark in. And what that does is that starts the playback head. And so as I press play, so now this brings me to... That seems like it's a good place to start. So I can easily get back to that by pressing this kind of rewind kind of button. Now if I press it too many times, oops, oh no, I've lost it, but I can just press, it takes me to the next cue. And so now we can see that it starts off there. So I actually may want to go forward a little bit before I start the trim. Okay, so a little bit right there. So I'm going to trim it starting there. See if that's good. So now this brings me to... Okay, so that's pretty good. So now what I'll do is I will just again rewind back to that same place, and now I will switch to the clip. Now that it's got the clip, it's selected in orange, we know that. This is actually where it will trim. If I click on this mark in right now, it will trim at this point. Now the scissors split the clip, but I actually want to split it and get rid of this leading edge. So that's why I click on here, and it trims it there. For the project, I'm going to go ahead and drag that all the way over, so now you can hear the whole project. So now this brings me to... And see, that was trimmed right where I wanted it to be. Okay, so now's a good point in time to actually talk a little bit about interruptions. So the great thing about editing in a program like VideoStudio is that you don't have to have everything recorded in the proper order and sequence. So for example, as I was recording, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of introductory part here. So I recorded that as capture 10, and I can just see if that's the right one just by clicking on here and then pressing clip. Notice clip gets selected. In this video, I'm introducing the video, and that's the right clip. So I'm just going to drag it and put it in the front, and it puts it right in the front and moves everything over. So the other video that I have, this video 3, I don't need that anymore. I've already noticed it's not needed. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to go ahead and delete. So I'll delete that, so I don't even need that. So now I can make sure that the project is selected, go back to the beginning, and I will listen to it and see if what parts I need to trim out, just like I was doing before. Now within VideoStudio you can zoom in very close, so I'm going to click on this plus here quite a number of times, and you can see how quickly the head will move. So I'm trying to find a very specific place, and so again I will do that trimming here, making sure the project is selected, and I think it should start here, and then I'll just come over to here somewhere and put my playhead and trim out there. And so I'm just going to play that section right there. Maybe that's the right place. Maybe a little bit further to the left, and see how that is. Yeah, so the So anyway, now I'll just come back to the beginning, and I will trim right there again by selecting the clip. And that starts us off. So I've zoomed in really close to mark it to a very specific place, and then I can zoom back out to kind of listen to what that sounds like. Now, if you have things zoomed in very closely, you might want to scroll back and forth, and the easiest way to do that is just put your cursor right in this timeline area there, and then use the mouse wheel, and that allows you to change that size. If I put my cursor down below the timeline over here and I use the mouse, then the whole timeline moves left or right. So right here it changes the scale, and down here moves it left or right. Now here's an interesting situation. Sometimes you have two clips that don't really transition well. In this particular case, the sound transitions well, but the images flip too quickly. So you can see I go to this intermediate image, and then it goes to another image, and it kind of looks a little bit strange. Yeah. Now the final thing that So there's two ways that I can think of dealing with that. One is you can put a transition in here. So here I'll go to the transitions, and you can select from all of them. You can put some of them in your favorites. And so one of my favorites is the crossfade. And all you do is drag it down in between them. And now the transition will be a little bit nicer. So here we go. It's already been added to the outline. And the final thing that I'll show you is that you can... And to get rid of a transition, you can just delete it. Another way that you can do this, an interesting one here, is this clip. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. And we can see that this image right there happens right about here. And I don't want to show that kind of image. And then it transitions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this place right about here, and I am going to split the clip there by clicking on the scissors. And then I'm going to click on this clip, and I'm going to right click and say split audio. Alright, and so the audio is separate from it. I'm going to do the same thing for the other clip, and I'll split it right there. And then for this individual clip, I'll split the audio. So now the audio is separate from these other images. Now what I'll do is I will come over here to where we have this image that I want to see, and I will do Edit, Take a Snapshot. And now that snapshot is there, and so what I will do is I will replace this section and that section. I'll delete them both. And I'll take this image and I'll just drag it in there. And now the image, I will change the size of it. So let me zoom out a little bit. And this BMP, I will make it as the size of the purple. So I will just drag like there. And so what will happen now in that transition is this. So let's go back to the beginning of the project, which is this orange part. Now the final thing, oops, go back here. That one's already been added to the album. Now the final thing that I'll show you is that you can... So that's another way that you could do with that transition. So you just keep repeating that process of dragging in the clips and then trimming them as appropriate. And that's the basics of creating a video in VideoStudio. There's tons and tons and tons of other tools and things, so you can check out some of the other videos that I have that can help understand that. But one of the most confusing things was these trim markers, and so I wanted to kind of walk through an example of how to use those to just create a basic video. The next thing that we'll just say, you know, after you've gotten this video, that's all I did for a video like this tutorial kind of thing. And then I just go over to the share. And underneath there, there's all different types of outputs that you can have, and you can edit them, you can create and modify the ones that you have. I have one that's set up specifically for putting things to YouTube, and I'll just give it a name and put it on start. And that's, it'll render, and you're done. And the last thing that you do is just clean up your project. Like I showed in the beginning of this video, just delete everything in the timeline and all of the files, the thumbnails in here. So that's the basics of creating a video in VideoStudio.